Greetings.
Hello.
My greetings. Well met. Greetings, traveler. Greetings, friend.
The pleasure is mine.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to episode 272 of Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is 12/24, also known as Christmas Eve. Joining you from Gadsden, New York, it's me, Ridiculous Het. From Carysden, California, it's Botticus.
I thought you were going to say 12:24 in the morning.
No.
Well, not really morning, but yeah, it's we're recording early today.
No, we're recording early. You're recording very early.
I mean, it's still like an hour and 40 minutes after I start work every day. So
Oh my gosh.
it's like
You start
not
work at
that
7
early,
a.m.?
but yeah, like normal people.
Is that normal?
Yeah. I hate to say it, but it is.
7
It's
to
not normal
5,
for you or I,
or
but
7 to 4, whatever. 8 to 5, 7 to 4, pretty common.
Gross. And from Undercity, Pennsylvania, it's Edelweiss.
hey everyone.
Good morning. And listener from wherever you are, we're supported by you. If you'd like to find out how you can support us, receive rewards in return, head to patreon.com/Concede. You can also support us by leaving an iTunes review, totally free, and really helps other people find the show. Our newest patron this week, Hadija Chamberlain. Hadija, you're wonderful. Thank you. You didn't have to, but you're great, and you should feel great. Thank you so much for supporting our little show. And we talked about doing the reviews that have come in. We've gotten a lot of really great reviews on the bonus show. Well, next week, there's not going to be a lot of news to talk about. So next week, our current tentative plan is to do our bonus show live as our main show for the week. And it'll be a Q&A mailbag show, so you can send in whatever or ask in the chat. We're currently planning that on Wednesday, the 30th. We'll see if that actually happens, because, you know, this is new territory for us. But the Blizzard team is out of the office until January 4th, so we shouldn't plan on a lot of news happening over the next 2 weeks. So, we'll see. But that's our current plan. But yes, thank you for everyone that's left us some very nice reviews. We've gotten quite a few lately. And we're at 95 patrons, which is crazy,
wild.
right? 95.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Thank you to everyone that supports our show. It really means a lot and helps. Just nice. All right, Life and Ladder. Edelweiss, you go first because you have the most important news by far.
I got a cat.
You got a cat!
Yeah, Rachel and I, we were actually fostering a different kitty who was the definition of a scaredy cat. So that one got its own home, got adopted by someone else. But we adopted a nice all-white female cat, which is supposed to be the best for allergies. It's still going to take a while for me to adjust. I'm still taking allergy medication every day. We'll see how it goes. If I have to change up the medication, I'll do that. But yeah, she's very sweet. Loves to hang out on the couch and on people's laps, and loves people, hates other animals. So it's kind of perfect.
I see her next to your wife right now, wagging her tail.
I mean, it's probably a little difficult because of the contrast, but
because it's all because the sun is bright and the cat is white and it all blends in. But I see a tail moving every so often.
Yeah, I like the shades down. Rachel likes them up.
That's okay.
Yeah, and then the other thing was we actually, rather than just sort of eyeballing it and doing paycheck to paycheck, my wife and I finally made a real budget so we can start saving for certain things. So, yeah, slowly working towards real adults.
Good for you. Budgeting and a pet child. Yes, that sounds mature. How about Hearthstone?
Hearthstone, been playing a fair bit of Rogue because I don't really want to do Shaman, and I don't know. Somehow the stuff in Rogue sits better with me because you have to do a lot of improvisation and problem solving with your turns, whereas with Shaman it's just like what's in the box, like in terms of the evolve.
You can just say Rogue's
feels
more
like
fun. You can just say
a
that.
puzzle to solve.
Rogue's
I
more
mean, it is more fun.
Yeah. But yes.
It's not so much what's in the box as how many times do I get to play this 5 mana card. Sometimes I get to play it with 4 mana and a 4/2 body equipped, but how many times can I get this little 4/2 weapon thing to swing? And if it's a lot of times, then I'm probably winning those games regardless of what comes out of the minions. At least that's what I've found.
Yeah. Well, it's how many times do I get to attack for 4 and also like accidentally make a giant annoying board?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also really brutal because we've fallen back into the getting super punished for trying to be aggressive early because their swing turn involves Sea Giant and Flesh Shaper. So that can be rough.
Yeah, it's and the Mogu evolves in the current standard are kind of all over the place, but I will say that when Shaman hits Scrapyard Colossus, I find it unlikely to beat the Shaman in those games, unless they have a sap
or polymorph.
Yeah, right, because Rogue is mage now. Yeah. Bodicus, how about you with Life and Ladder, buddy? How you been?
Doing all right. Since I hit Legend, I've been doing quite a bit less with Standard. Still playing a couple games here or there, but playing mostly Battlegrounds, trying to get my bearings. Doing better than I was when I first started playing. Starting to kind of get the hang of it, but I find myself leaning towards going Elementals a lot more often, mostly because I like the play style of Elementals, and also the cards feel more powerful to me, even though I know that they're not necessarily more powerful, but the effects that elementals have just seem like they have more effects than the other tribes. So I feel like myself getting fairly consistently caught in the elementals trap and then not doing as well as I might have been able to had I gone with a different strategy. But yeah, I've been enjoying that. I was kind of having that thought on because I did play a bit of Standard and was kind of trying to figure out. I was trying to think of some things like why is Shaman good now? I mean, obviously there's a bunch of reasons, but I was also trying to think of like ways that Shaman is winning and whether we have the tools to be able to deal with it, and was just kind of thinking of the idea that Shaman right now attacks you a lot in the face with a 4/2 weapon, with a 4 attack weapon, and was just kind of pondering the idea of whether we have the tools to be able to deal with getting attacked by a weapon over and over again, since mostly the statistics show that I think weapon removal is not necessarily beneficial to you unless you're also playing Evolve Shaman and you play in the mirror and you take and you sticky finger their weapon. I assume that weapon removal is not really showing up to be a good solution to classes that are trying to attack you a bunch with a weapon. So
I'll spoil it for you a little bit because the Vicious Indica report comes out in 13 minutes. No, Sticky Finger is good against Evolve Shaman for everybody.
okay.
Just because it's normally the downside of Sticky Finger is that you play a 5-mana 4/4, but this meta is warped enough that taking the Knuckles from Shaman and disrupting Horde Pillager is absolutely worth doing. And that is not a sign of a healthy meta, but it is a sign of an effective tech card.
That's
Right.
interesting
And
because I feel like when I guess if you're sticky fingering the 2 durability weapon when they have to like play the weapon and then hold it so that they can play some minions and get the evolve off, makes a lot of sense. But if they're not expecting the sticky finger, but I feel like if you're stealing the weapon with 1 durability left and they also just made a large board with it, then it feels like you still lose most of those games because you spent 5 mana and didn't do anything to affect their board, and you just have this weapon and a 6-drop, or you got to attack one. I guess you could attack one of their minions.
Yeah, you get a 6-drop, you get to hit one of their minions for 4, and the most important thing is you get to disrupt Horde Pillager. That deck is so dependent on getting 4+ swings with the weapon that if you can reduce that number by some amount, and also if they have a Horde Pillager and not the second Knuckles, you just kind of turn the deck off.
Right. Okay.
So that historically, outside of scenarios like this, historically running Ooze against like a Stormhammer or whatever has been bad. Right? Like historically you don't want to do that. This is an extreme meta with a very specific interaction. And the issue isn't that we don't have the tools to stop Shaman. The issue is that attacking for 4, like 4 to 6 times in a game while making a big board every time shouldn't be something that happens in Hearthstone. So like the synergy is just a little bit too powerful because it attacks the opponent on multiple different angles, and the format doesn't really have good aggressive tools to go under.
Right. And I mean, my thought process was actually getting more away from specifically the scenario of Shaman, just the idea of having weapon classes be good and whether or not we have the tools to be able to deal with them. Just like as in a general sense, because before this, Demon Hunter was really good and weapon removal was not good against Demon Hunter. And we didn't have great tools to prevent people from literally attacking us. Not necessarily, because we talked about like the idea of aggro attacking us in the face, and I'm more specifically talking about getting attacked with a weapon. So it seems like we have the tools to deal with Shaman. I'm just wondering if there's anything we can think of for the future of cards that could be printed that maybe give us a better shot against, if we're specifically trying to tech against weapons that, or just, getting attacked like that specific. It's just like a different kind of tech card, right? That is what I was trying to kind of envision. But I was just thinking about that a lot, and I don't know. And it seems like we have like Frozen's Shadow Weaver is also kind of a decent idea of a card that techs against that. But is it good enough, and so on and so on.
Yeah.
I think they've made a lot of 4-attack weapons that have tended to be, really frustrating at various points in the meta. Like 4 attack, 2 durability is a lot of damage on a single card. And it sort of depends on how useful that effect is and like some of the cards around it, whether it's insane. I think Horde Pillager being able to give a discount on your next Knuckles, and like your Knuckles is already pretty consistent with the Custodian, that's fairly insane. And they may have underestimated just how good the Evolve is. It seems natural, like, okay, you go, we usually pay 4 mana for a 4/2 weapon, and then Evolve costs 1 mana, and you kind of get the second one free if it sticks. But yeah, I like the change of putting it to a 3/2 weapon. You've talked about that before a lot, Hat. But it's gonna be dangerous 4/2 weapons a lot of the time. We had Waggle Pick was pretty absurd when you could consistently pull it out as Rogue.
Yeah, though that deck had other issues. Like we were casting 0 mana, draw 3 cards. And
yeah.
I think really a good indicator is if you're playing Dread Corsair because it costs 0 consistently, something is broken with your deck. That is a good canary in the coal mine, that if you see a Dread Corsair that is really there just to get spit out for free, something is probably in need of a change. And I don't expect Dread Corsair to survive a classic set rework.
It's sort of a like puzzle that gets pieced together. It's like if you can consistently get the weapon that has 4 attack, then you are willing to play cards like Dread Corsair, like Horde Pillager, just because you get that like constant amount of damage off the weapon. And I think Rogue had that with what was it? Raiding Party?
Yeah,
right?
the 0 mana draw 3 cards. Yeah, we prepped it for 3 and then played it for 0 and then drew Dread Corsair, Captain Greenskin, Wagglepick, and it was pretty gross.
Yeah. And you had Hook Scimitar in there as well instead of a Horde Pillager because, another thing to draw. And but all of the 4 attack weapons, honestly, it's part of why I like that one treasure in Duels so much. Is I get one of the 4 mana 4 attack weapons, and just all the weapons at 4 mana are kind of insane because you got like Marrow Slicer and the Reaper Scythe, Wagglepick.
True Silver Champion.
True Silver Champion, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, 4 attack weapons are good. Like, we've kind of been playing them for a while. You can cost them in a way that makes them less relevant, but if you want to talk about effectively a 4 attack weapon, Warglaze of Azeroth, because you just hero power to get that extra attack, and let me tell you, that weapon at 5, real good. Real good. Yeah, it's something that I try and make sure I remember sometimes is that this is even more than a 6-set meta. It's a 7-set meta kind of because of Galakron's Awakening. And we're going to get 35 more cards in about 3 weeks. It's really hard to balance a card pool of this size. You're almost always going to have outliers. And so they had aggro outliers, and then they nerfed the aggro, and now we have a mid-range outlier. And it's hard for control decks to keep up with that, and really what threatens that is aggro decks, and there aren't really a lot of good aggro decks. So I would worry about being too many... if there are too many good defensive tools, then you end up with a 6-set control meta, which is terrible, right? Which is when you end up with Wall Priest being the best deck. It's... Yeah. Bodicus is shivering, and Edelweiss made a sound of disgust. I'm right there with you. So you usually have a lot of redundancy in 6-set metas just because you have such a large number of cards. And so almost always something's going to be too good. It's pretty rare for there to be a well-balanced 6-set meta. But the issue I have with Shaman is the play pattern overall is just so kind of paint by numbers. Of just like, I want to bloom out my Knuckles, and then I want to play my Pitmaster, my Desert Hare, and then I want to Horde Pillager it back, and blah, 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 blah. Not going to say that Rogue is actually healthier, even though we're going to spend all episode gushing about Rogue, because it's not. It also needs a nerf pretty badly, and Edwin has really overstayed his welcome. But the play pattern of Shaman is kind of mind-numbing, and... we lived with this for 2 months in Doom in the Tombs, and it did not really resonate all that well with the player base, and I am worried that this will stick around and cause similar feelings. I don't know.
Rogue is fine. I don't know what you're talking about.
I like it. I've been playing a lot of it. I'm not going to say that. Anyways, as for me, life has been interesting because I am helping out at a theater that is not closed during the holidays. And I actually went to work and worked an 8-hour shift yesterday, and there were people there, and I did stuff, and wore a mask all day, of course. Didn't love being part of the customer service machine during the pandemic, but having something to do and physical activity was kind of nice, and I slept a solid 8 hours last night, in a row. I went to bed, and then it was 8 hours before I woke up, and that's not a usual thing. So, I don't know. There's something to be said for purpose. There's something to be said for doing things, like walking around and picking things up and putting them down, and haven't done a lot of that in the past 8 months. But I was very tired yesterday. And I've been playing, a little bit of stuff on the ladder. Once I hit double legend, I usually wind down a little bit on Hearthstone. I have been enjoying Battlegrounds on the couch. It's really fun right now. Really enjoy it. I haven't gone elementals quite as often as Bodicus, but I have tried. I tried Pirate Exodia. Got there once. That's a really fun comp for those that don't know. You have like Khadgar and Rivendare and Eliza and a Scallywag. And so it spawns a bunch of the, like, you need 6 minions on the board, and you need to taunt up the Scallywag, and it sends out tokens, and Khadgar duplicates them, and the Rivendare makes the death rattles happen more, and you end up buffing your entire board, kind of like Macaw Goldrinn situation, very similarly, because Eliza buffs her whole board. And when you get it going, it's just the tokens attack forever, and ever, and ever, and ever. And then your board gets big, and then you win. Also, I'm sure they're talking about it internally. Probably time for Khadgar to go.
No.
Okay.
Bad thoughts. No. Khadgar stays.
But he's kind of busted, right?
For the first time since...
Theoretically, he's been busted the whole time. We're just better at the game now.
I mean, yeah, but it also takes, like... I mean, maybe you need to remove him because people are doing the exit game macros or whatever so that they can do full brand Khadgar turns, but, like, those are the most fun things to do.
They are fun. They're very powerful.
It's hard to set up. And also, like, a good portion of the games you can't even do them because you don't have, like, either Murlocs or Beasts aren't in that game, and then you don't have a token creator, or you're missing half of your token creators, and then it gets really risky to do strategies like that. And also, it takes a while to set up, so if you spend the whole game doing it, usually you have to take a bunch of damage in one turn, and sometimes you just die. Like, I had that happen yesterday where somebody got set up with Khadgar, with either Golden Khadgar or Double Khadgar, but they were at 10 life, and I went against them. They didn't have a chance to play any of their 6-star minions, and they just had a bunch of 2/2s and 3/2s, and they died.
Yeah, I mean, the time management is difficult, but it feels kind of strange when the APM is the limiting factor of how good something can be. And I know Jay Korek was practicing his no disconnect transitions and crushed it in the WSOE event just by making like 20 triples or something like that, and was able to get it off quickly enough.
Oh, jeez.
It feels strange to me that those are the sort of things that are limiting factors, and strikes me as, you know, when you win a game because your Dream Portal flipped a Nozdormu. That's what it feels like. And I don't really want that kind of client limitation defining, who wins or loses. But maybe it should just stay a part of the game and be a really high skill cap thing. It seems like it's a very big part of the meta at high MMR, but I am not high MMR, so like I'm fine with it. But I've heard a lot of rumblings from players that are actually good, like, hey, maybe Khadgar has to go.
They did remove Nozdormu from the Sarah portals, right?
That is the analogy I'm trying to make, yes.
Well, I hope it doesn't go, because I'm like, the thing is I feel like, I don't know. I just like the interaction. But
it's fun.
If
it's a fun thing to do.
If it's problematic at high MMR, I guess it has to go.
Well, it doesn't have to. It's in right now. Like, they could just be like, now we're leaving it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just like personal bias, since I'm not currently at high MMR where stuff like that is an issue for me. So
I was at actually 0 last night before I played a couple of games before bed.
Well, that's not your MMR. That's your rating. They're different.
No, I know. But regardless.
But yeah, in terms of standard, I've been playing mostly various rogues that are trying to go under Shaman. I have tried some Zoo. It's alright. It's fine. I still love playing with Revenant Rascal, and I recognize that might make me, like, not a great person. But
no, it's great.
Yes, stone raining people is fantastic. It's Just like
It does it to you too. It's fine.
except my deck is all 1-drops and their deck is all 5-drops. But yeah, just saying, hey, you want to do turn 3 again? No, okay, let's do it. And it's been enjoyable because Zoo is the last hope for a good aggro deck in Standard, which means we don't have any good aggro decks in Standard. But Zoo is fine. It's fine.
Zoo is usually in various states of fine.
Yeah, it's usually a deck that people
Sometimes
play because they
barely
want.
fine. Sometimes it's fine.
Let's see. As of right now, per HS Replay last 3 days, it is actually apparently the second best deck in the game after Whirlkick Rogue and ahead of Evolve Shaman by like under 0.1%. I question that reality, but also it means that people are hard targeting Shaman and are not hard targeting Zoo.
That is true.
Yeah, because Kobold Sticky Finger, not very good against Zoo. It's quite poor against Zoo. Yeah. Which is yet another sign of a warp meta. We'll talk about that. But let's get into our limited news section.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
All right, not a ton of news this week, but got some interesting topics to talk about at least. There was a hotfix that came out. So if you are already past level 30 on the rewards track, then you should have gotten a total of 200 gold, it looks like.
100.
For 50 gold each for levels 27. Oh, 27 and 30. I thought it was 27 through 30.
Yes.
Which wouldn't, yeah. So 100 gold, 100 extra gold, because you should have gotten 100 extra gold for those 2 levels, I guess.
They added 50 gold to each level because they thought the rewards were too low. So for the people that logged in and got 50 gold twice and were like, why? This is why. It was a very strange adjustment, but I'm not going to say no. I'll take 100 gold.
Yeah. And also the bug with the cards that transformed with the corruption thing got fixed as well. The visual bug for the cards that transform, like Shifter Xeris, Bandersmosh, Molten Blade, and Chameleos.
Yeah, so for the one person whose Chameleos transformed into a Pitmaster and then you corrupted it, and then it stuck on the board, they got you.
Also of note, if you are looking for the Wintervale card back, it is now in the shop. So if you missed getting that the first time, you now have the option to get it now. For those of you who are very into collecting card backs. And then we got this interesting announcement regarding Hearthstone Masters that I think is quite interesting. So it says, we know you are all excited to get back to competing in Hearthstone Masters. The team is working hard to finalize all of the 2021 details, including the full event schedule. While we can't announce yet, we will next year as soon as everything is ready. From everyone on the Hearthstone esports team, have a safe and happy end of 2020.
Is that like 4 people now? How many people is that?
I think it's like 5.
Probably more than that.
I think it's more than that, yeah.
But
if nothing else...
lost a significant number.
We lost, I think, 3. Aaron Eberhardt still...
There was a new one recently.
There was some... No, Malio left... She was working for Blizzard CS, I believe, and she's working at Second Dinner now, but she was not on the esports team.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's Ixar's wife.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, they met at Blizzard, but now she's joined the Second Dinner team. But yeah, we lost a few people last week. I don't know, Edelweiss, how do you feel about this?
Well, I want Nerd Street to hire the people. But no, how I feel about it is so I'm a little concerned. This announcement has me thinking that 2021 is in fact going to be the same system, and their team is just adapting to strictly online events. I hope that's wrong, because I would like to see some kind of change made to the system, and I'm hoping that's why we don't have qualifiers going on right now. But yeah, I guess it's nice to know that we should be getting an announcement soon. I guess last year the announcement was around January 6th.
But they had qualifiers this time last year. They had qualifiers in like it can't be the same system because there was a Masters Tour January 31st. So the timing has to be different, right? So the Masters Tours last year were January 31st, March 20th, June 12th, and there was a big gap there because they switched to online. July 16th, September 11th, October 23rd. Now those dates are weirdly clumpy, right? We've got 2 that were like 2 months right together, and then September, October right together. I imagine they're trying to spread it out a little bit more if they're keeping a similar system. And as we talked about, it makes sense if they laid off all of their event coordination people if they're not going to do live events anymore. Like, you don't need to keep those people on the payroll. But, yeah, I don't know. We know nothing about it. Like, I had this crazy crackpot theory that the new game mode they were announcing this set is tournament mode, which is why they're waiting to say anything, because it's going to be supported in client. And
that would be hell of an announcement.
Well, so like, if they started working on this when the pandemic came about, and they were like, okay, let's just put Conquest in the client, could be done by now. I don't know. Like, they could do it. But if nothing else, it makes sense it's going to be online only.
They have the technology, right? It is that way in China, no?
That's an add-on developed by NetEase. It's a separate program on PC that runs on top, yeah.
All right. My bad.
I mean, they could adapt that. They could license that from NetEase if they wanted to. They probably haven't. I imagine they're actually building it in the client if they're building it at all. And again, it's completely unsubstantiated. And expecting tournament mode in Hearthstone's history has not gone super well for the people expecting it. Because, we don't have it. And then they said, we're working on it. And then they're like, nah, just kidding.
I don't know. To me, this just seems like, hey, we're going to be out of the office until January. So we're not really going to be able to announce the schedule. And it's not done yet. So it seems like they're just trying to preemptively, like, stop the complaining, I guess. Like, essentially just be like, hey, don't yell at us that we don't know what we're doing in 2021 yet, because we're not going to announce it yet.
There has to be some difference in my mind, because otherwise, why not just have qualifiers going on right now, like we did last year? So I'm hopeful that there's some difference. I think ideally for me, instead of the constant rolling qualifiers and Masters Tours, I would like to see sort of one per expansion that is Blizzard. And then have some, like, instead of a bunch of downtime just at the end of the year, have some spaced out downtime in between sort of qualifier seasons that gives room for third parties to actually run some big stuff of their own.
I admire your optimism, but do not expect this to be the year of third-party events.
No, that's not what I said. I said I would like that to happen. I didn't say I expect that to happen.
Yes, that's fair. I don't know. It's kind of late in the game to make an announcement telling people to not complain, because there were no ladder invites or qualifiers in October, November, or December. 3 months with nothing. There's got to be something different, because it's 3 months with nothing for players to compete for. That's really unusual. shows the sign of something major is changing, right? Because
Hope so.
after the Masters Tour at the end of October, it was just Worlds. It was just Grandmasters and Worlds. That was it. Unless you're in China. I don't know. 3 months of downtime. They better be doing something important with this, because if they're just starting the new system 3 months later, they could have said that already. And I think if that's the announcement in January, there will be unrest. If there
That's
is
been
any.
weird, right? Like
3 months with nothing to do
can't-
from first party is very strange.
I as much as I poke fun at your tournament sections, like I don't think we've ever gone this stretch of a duration without some tournament going on that you had to talk about in the tournament section.
Yeah, and I would have even brought up TESPA, except there are no broadcasts for TESPA. I find out about it after the tweet from the winner. Like, there's no attention being paid to whatever, and TESPA shutting down, right? Like, it's done this year. So,
Like forever?
but well, we talked about this like a month ago. Yeah, they're
I missed that.
yeah, the TESPA program is shutting down. There might be a rebranding in the future, but as of right now, it is done. So yeah, I don't believe this is the end of Hearthstone esports. I believe they have something in the works. Oh, I shouldn't have said in the works. I believe they have something going on, because otherwise it doesn't make sense for them to just go silent like this. And yeah, like Wicked is saying in the chat, they did say that Blizzard Esports will still have a collegiate level esports. It's just the thing known as TESPA, the organization known as TESPA, is gone. So we'll see. They hired Kali Anderson this year as a high level esports employee to work on esports. I imagine there's something going on there, and if it is online only, they probably can make a budget stretch a little bit further, because they really only have to pay for production costs, right? Like, that's all they're paying for. Everything else is free. So I imagine that there is something to wait for, and if not, they're going to have a lot of really disappointed people. But my hope beyond hope, that I think is technically plausible, is that the new game mode is in Client Conquest, and if I get to do in Client Conquest, I'm going to play a lot of Conquest. Let me tell you.
So yeah, I mean, this was an interesting announcement. I don't know if we've gotten something like this before, but could mean a lot of things. Probably poses more questions than they wanted. I'm guessing by posting it. I'm guessing this was supposed to be like, hey, no more questions, but now everybody's thinking of what it means. So
they know better than that by now, certainly.
I guess.
Surely. After vague post last month, I don't know if you recall, something went down last month when they posted some things and said no more questions. They got more questions. It rhymes with paddle bass.
Yeah, well, I don't know what to say to that. Sometimes, yeah, sometimes you just don't learn from stuff like that. But
I do want to do a quick check-in here, though. How does each of your gold stash feel right now?
I look in the bottom right corner the day before the expansion comes out and don't bother checking it otherwise. Like, I have 20 packs saved up for the mini set that I did not buy. They just over the course of the past month, they've just appeared in my account. I'm just like, okay, they can stay there. So I feel pretty set. And I don't know, I'm not at level 50 yet, but some people in Discord are already. And, I think I have nearly 4,000 goldish, something like that. Like, I don't know, doing okay.
So I am not at level 50 yet, because I haven't been targeting achievements or anything. I was at a disadvantage in that I spent a fair bit of gold on duels, and I know I did not do well enough to recuperate it. And going into the set, I was lower because of the Brawliseum stuff. So I am level 47 right now with 4,475 gold and 29 Dark Moon Fairs packs waiting for the mini expansion.
Yeah.
I feel like I have more than before. Maybe that's wrong, but it feels like I am in fact like not playing as much as I necessarily did in Scholomance. I mean, I'm not sure I ever played as much as in Scholomance.
You didn't sleep for the first day. Of course you didn't play as much in Scholomance.
But I think actually compared to my average, like I've been trying to de-stress, chill out, playing more of some other games. I have a Switch now. It's probably the biggest difference. And it still feels like I am on par, if not more, like higher in terms of the amount of gold I have, and when we're gonna get the next expansion. So I guess it's like, how much am I gonna end up using when the mini expansion comes out? But with duplicate protection and reserving packs, I feel like I'll be able to get pretty much whatever without necessarily have to spend a gold.
I have no idea. I have never tracked how much gold I have in any expansion ever. It's just like a resource that I'm just like, it's a new expansion, just zero out the gold to buy packs, and then I generate some amount of gold in between then and the next expansion, and then it's like, all right, zero it out again and buy packs. And sometimes it feels like I buy 20 or 30 packs. Sometimes I buy 50 or 60 packs. I have never tracked how much gold I've been making, and it's just not like, I don't know, it's not ever been a real relevant resource to me, I guess. And I don't spend gold on most things. Like, I never did arena, and now I have 11. I still have like 9 passes left if I wanted to do heroic duels. So I'm not going to be paying for heroic duels for a long time. And so I don't know. I wouldn't know if the amount of gold I have right now is a lot or a little compared to what I usually have at this point.
Yeah, it's close enough or clear enough that, like, unless someone asks me about it, I don't have to care about it more or less than I cared about the old system. I just play and have stuff the same way that I did before, but now there's a larger conversation around it, and I have more packs because I know I need them for the mini set, but they're just still sitting there. I'm just not opening them instead of opening them. I don't know. I don't feel strongly enough about it to give it mental energy. And, I didn't really do that in the old system either until the day before the expansion when I could see how many packs I could buy. So we'll see.
I dislike that a great deal, though, that I have this stupid red number.
Yeah.
It's not 0 at the bottom, and I know there's a pack in there, and that pack should be opened. It should not be waiting for 35 cards to come out. It just should open it. It's really triggering me.
I'm sitting on like, all of those class packs and the
time.
Classic packs. I think I have 46 unopened.
I only have 1 left because I didn't really. I don't know. I figured that you would have to get packs after the cards came out to get the cards. So I just opened stuff, and then, then you told me that that's not true. That you just save the packs and then you open them later. And I'm just like,
yeah. I mean, I've even got classic ones for a rework.
When there's a notification and you have to click the notification, that's me. And I need to click the notification that I have packs and they need to get opened.
I feel you. I guess I've transformed that part of my brain to not consider packs a notification.
It's a notification. I see it every time I log into the client.
It's an inventory.
Staring at me.
That's all. It's an inventory.
Just looking at me, just like, hey, open this. Open this pack now. You could have that dust just waiting for you to not use, but it could be there.
So not to cut you off from saying all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, but Karova, thank you so much for the Twitch Prime sub. Bodicus, you all right, buddy? You okay?
We're fine.
It's-
doing fantastic.
It sounds like the Hearthstone pack screen is speaking to you.
Yeah. Well, I
Getting-
don't like
getting some
not
whispers.
opening packs. I don't like not opening packs. It feels wrong.
Maybe
Packs
it's
are meant
Dark
to be
Moon Fair
open.
packs in particular. They're
that are
whispering
causing
to
the
you.
madness.
all packs, just open the packs. The packs are there to be opened. They're not there to, unless you're going to draft them later, unless they're Magic the Gathering packs, and then you never open them. They
But what about the
stay closed
special
unless
packs?
you're drafting.
Like the pack you can get for Garrosh Book of Heroes, right? What about those class packs? You
Yeah,
don't, you
they're
don't like
opened
holding on to the
immediately.
special packs?
Immediately. The only reason I completed the thing was to get the pack to open it.
Oh, see,
don't
I
care
get the
about
pack to
any of
look
the
at
other
it because it's a
stuff.
warrior pack. It's special. It's like more special as a pack than it is as cards.
No, it's not.
So big thanks to Based
Pack,
Inc.
it gets
for
opened.
5 tier 1 subs. Based, you're the best. Thanks, lady. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
That's very kind of you.
Yes. So anyways,
Speaking of, Garrosh Book of Heroes is out, and you can go get a warrior pack to open or not if you're not into that kind of thing. If you're into just, having that notification there, having that pack there, just, every time you mouse over it, it wiggles a little bit like, open me. Open me.
I didn't actually know as much of Garrosh's story, so this was pretty fun for me.
yeah, he's a jerk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Turns out. Yep.
Also war criminal. Yeah. And
It's okay. I have a different warrior to play now.
yes. And if you want to learn more about Garrosh's story, it's actually covered quite a bit in a bunch of World of Warcraft expansions. Just don't do the Warlords of Draenor story. You don't have to do that one. Because time travel. But yeah, he was the antagonist of multiple expansions, I think. And started the Horde is evil thing.
I didn't realize he canonically got corrupted by the old gods.
I believe, well, it's the final boss of Warlords of Draenor is Garrosh of the Siege of Orgrimmar, and yeah, he has some of, I believe it's Yasharaj's power.
Okay.
Yeah, and he was never a great dude to begin with. Like he was
No.
ready for the production.
So that's pretty much it for the news. Have a little bit of tournament stuff to talk about, and then we get to talk about Rogue, which is an exciting topic. Very
Yes.
exciting
So let's go talk about
Rogue.
tournaments.
Yeah.
It's the grand tournament.
So there were a few third-party tournaments this week. Edelweiss, I know you must be thrilled. WSOE IV. This is the Battlegrounds tournament. Cool to watch. Frodan and admirable casting. There were 4 invited teams of 2 people and 4 qualified teams. 3. Oh, hi Raven. What's up, buddy? So 3 qualified teams made it to the finals along with 1 invited team. We want to give a shout out to Hoppa Bear and Jay Correct on Team Dream, friends of the show. But Team Happy Cow took it home. Slissa and 12 wins took it to the finals. Incredible performance. Slissa's really good at BGs. 12 wins, obviously, really good too. But Slissa's really, really good and keeps winning things. And I don't know. I love watching her YouTube content as well. She has some very good videos. Yeah. So crushed it. A lot of the matches she played are on her YouTube channel, including one where she got an incredible 0.1% scam win, which I enjoyed watching. But there were also a bunch of just really powerful comps that she put together, and some very good APM Pirates play, as she is known for. There's also the Community Champions event, which THL was a part of. I was a part of, not as a competitor, but as an organizer. There were 8 different community organizations that got together, and each had a champion in the tournament. So in the constructed portion, Snake Fods from No Pros Here took the finals over Garrosh from the Ace Esports, and Eggo Waffle from House Rivalries was in third. The deck lists are in the show notes. Face Hunter and Rage Warrior Evolve Shaman and Libram Paladin. Face Hunter actually looked quite good on stream. Both players left Shaman up in the finals, and the Evolve Shaman ended up getting beaten by these particular techs. The Libram Paladin also has Avenging Wrath in it, which is fun. I enjoy that, right? Yes. Damage. And then in BGs, Bresci Tuna from THL, represent. THL took down the Battlegrounds portion. Itachi from Aspirant in second, and Joaquin from Tierra del Fuego in third place. The VODs for that are over on the YouTube channel for Team Hearth Legends, which I guess the custom URL still says League, but we promise we're Legends. Blizzard, please don't arrest us. You can catch those VODs over there. And really great experience putting this event together with Julian from TDF and a whole bunch of other people in the scene, with Pasca and Roguish Bard over at Aspirant, and a whole bunch of people that I'm forgetting right now because it's early in the morning. Oh, and you, Edelweiss, you were there. And Bemmy from House Rivalry. So many people.
Yeah, well, we had to lend out Cookie to Aspirant since he is the 2-time winner of the Aspirant series.
Yes.
So he couldn't play for Sugoi.
And Itachi, I know as well, was representing Aspirant, but has also been a part of THL for a long time. Like, there's a lot of overlap here because people that like to compete want to compete. And it was really nice to see this kind of event come together and be fun and enjoyable, and for a bunch of different communities to cross-pollinate. We're hopeful that there are more of these in the future, and it gives a little bit more visibility to the grassroots Hearthstone esports scene, because there are quite a few organizations that really just want to play and just want to make tournaments happen. And a huge shout out to the Latin American scene, as always. I love the energy and effort that they bring to Hearthstone, and they have tournaments all the time. So TDF, OSC, Ace all have a ton of tournaments going on all the time. Really dedicated players as well. Strongly recommend just, tuning into that universe. Helps if you speak Spanish, though. I don't.
Does.
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe I should start playing it some of it.
You should. Me gusta. And then tell us a little bit about the Female Legends tournament that you put in the show notes.
Yeah, so Zandy over at Monkey Bubble I think Monkey Bubble is running for Female Legends, which is a different organization. They wanted to do an all-women Hearthstone tournament, so Monkey Bubble is running it for them. I'm kind of assisting in terms of rules stuff. We also got some input from the Baddest Women of Hearthstone Discord, so it's a nice community project for our female competitors. It is on the EU server. Forgot to mention that when I tweeted it out. So you must have an EU collection to compete. But should be a lot of fun. My experience with women-only tournaments has been people tend to be polite. There's less tilting. That's just been my experience so far. It definitely creates a nicer feeling sort of safe space, particularly for those that maybe are uncomfortable playing in tournaments that are, 95% men or whatever, with 1,000 people. So, highly recommend.
Yes. Cool. I'm glad they're running this sort of thing. And then, speaking of tournaments, well, we're running one too. The Concede Listener Series is open for registration starting on Monday. And this is, it's league format series play. Everyone is welcome. We're running it on as many servers we get people for. It's 1 match per week, best of 3 conquest in a friendly, casual, competitive environment. And really, the goal here is a focus on positive social interaction and for people to learn what conquest feels like. So sometimes people will have decks that are a little bit less competitive. I personally tend to bring tier 1 adjacent decks that are a little bit off the beaten path that might be good enough, but I wouldn't normally bring to a tournament. So last season I brought Highlander Paladin a lot. It had its ups and downs, but I think there is opportunity for people who have not played Conquest before just to get a vibe for what tournaments can feel like, and then you can bring stuff that's a little off meta. You can bring meta decks if you want to, as long as you talk to your opponent and figure out, hey, how seriously are we taking this week? And it's just a fun time. Not really playing for anything, just for just for love of the game and to hang out and socialize with our fellow coin conceders. So I signed up already, and hope to see you all there. Yeah, and I guess that's it for the tournament section. So we're prepared for the next section. Let's go. Let's talk Rogue.
So we are finally covering Rogue. We were going to do it last week, but then news happened. Yeah, right now Rogue is number one on percentage because everyone's hard targeting Shaman.
On HS Replay, yes. Yes, it is.
Yeah. It has a lot to offer. The addition of the Pillager and Wand Thief and Brain Freeze has made Whirlkick Master actually pretty strong. I would say, what do you think makes this different hat from like your secret rogues? Why don't we start with that?
So secret rogue, you don't really need stunner right now. Like, it's okay, it's fine. And Hanar is good for value, but you kind of get two Hanars with Whirlkick Master. And there are a lot of really good low-cost cards that synergize well with combo. In particular, the printing of Prize Plunderer has transformed the direction Rogue can go, as well as Foxy Fraud. Those two cards are very clearly combo payoffs, and Wand Thief was there from last set that adds value. When your cards that generate you more value constantly cost you 1 mana or 0 mana, that's a good place to be. And Foxy Fraud is kind of busted, and Prize Plunderer is just a really, really efficient removal card. And it helps that Swindle, I think, is valuable on top of that, as well as what Good is saying in the chat. Though, really, Foxy Fraud works with everything. It just makes combo cards so much cheaper. So, because we already want to play such a high density of combo cards, Whirlkick Master kind of acts as a Hanar you get to play two of. And because the secret value is not as much right now, and because the secrets themselves are kind of bad, we'd rather just play more proactive combo cards, and it's just really, it's a super efficient deck. There have been multiple times where I've gone Secret Passage with 2 mana up after I play the passage, and I play 3 cards. It feels really, really powerful, just because a lot of the stuff in the deck feels like it doesn't cost quite enough mana. And as we said in the intro, this deck should be nerfed if they nerf Shaman, because it is too good. It's too good. But for now, having fun with it.
Yeah, I think the most important word you use there is proactive. I think the reason why decks like this tend to function really well in the Miracle version is that you have ways to close out the game, and Whirlkick Master does a really good job of giving you extra tools most of the time to help close out a game, while also giving you a good amount of staying power. Whereas Secret Rogue made a lot more sense because it has definitely more of a passive play style. You're not really using your secrets to you're using your secrets to delay the game to get to a more powerful end game setup. Whereas with the I guess the quote unquote Miracle version, you're definitely trying to close out the game with eviscerates and maybe like generated cold bloods or just ways to there's ways to close out the game. Whereas the secret version worked I think a lot better when you were playing Galakron. It made a lot more sense because you're trying to get to the 7 mana card or the Togwaggle turn and stuff like that. So delaying the game made a lot more sense, whereas this deck usually caps out at 5 mana at Jan Disparov and everything else costs way less. So while you do have a lot of staying power towards the late game with Whirlkick Master and like shadow stepping it and stuff like that, and just generating a ton of cards, it also just can close out games, which is important in a format like Evolved Shaman that's has these really, really powerful mid-game swing turns that can be really hard to deal with, and you just don't always have enough removal spells to deal with all of the amount of value and just kind of awkward board states that they're able to push out. So being able to close out a game and kill them before their fourth swing with a Bogspine Knuckles is kind of where I'd want to be, I think.
And to that point, do you play more of the aggro version or the questing version?
The initial version I played to Legend had a questing adventure in it, but I think I'm starting to lean more towards the deck that cut prep and cut kind of the more mid-rangey tools for more early game stuff, and Wriggling Horror I think is a really good addition. That card's just very strong, and in a deck like this that generates a lot of cheap minions, you can really make use out of getting the buff on multiple targets. So while it kind of functions as almost a combo card, the deck is meant to be able to facilitate combo in a sense. I mean, it's not a combo card, but you need minions in play for it to be effective because you don't want to be playing a 2-mana 2/1. So it effectively functions with what the rest of the deck's got going on.
Yeah, and the build that I'm running is even more extreme. I do think there's value in Whirlkick Master staying in the deck, but I've been testing Hook Scimitar over it, and so far I've been pretty happy with, like, Foxy Scimitar is so much damage early on, and being able to push that face damage. The most important thing I found against Shaman, you want to kill them around turn 6, and you want that first weapon swing they make into your minion to be one that's done when you want it as opposed to when they want it, and also to set them up for lethal with damage from hand. The sooner the better that you can take them out.
Yeah, I think the important thing is to have that weapon swing on your minion matter a lot, have the damage that they take from killing your minion to matter and help you end the game, because whenever Shaman is getting able to kind of kill one of your minions for free and they're not under the threat of dying by attacking your minion, then you're in a pretty rough spot.
I actually took a different route with the transforming into aggro. I removed the 2 SIs, the chorus and the questing, for double Wriggling Horror, double Deafeus. So I kept the preps. I just feel like being able to prep Swindle, prep Abyss, prep something off of Wand Thief has been really beneficial in a lot of games.
Yeah, I mean, Prep's a good card. Can absolutely run it. You know, the list that I've been running has Spy Mistress over it, I think. It's Spy Mistress, Scimitar, Wriggling Horror, and Defias Ringleader. Yeah, those 4 cards really, like, when you change 8 cards in a deck, it feels dramatically different. And as much as I like questing, which is actually not that much, if you're gonna run questing, I think you need to run 2 right now. Just because if you're going for that kind of slower list, the way to beat Shaman with that list is to scam them with something that's huge early on. And so you really need to make sure that you hit that questing, and you probably need to keep the preps in the list. But I don't think that's the direction to go right now. It's just, you could do it, and if you are going that way, I would go all in on it.
Yeah, I've actually had a surprisingly small amount of games where I have early big Edwins, or am able to make the questing work early, so that's why I kind of have gone away from it. It just feels difficult to, because I don't ever want to play a questing that's less than like a 5/5.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it just gets dealt with pretty easily, and it's pretty hard to get. And then the later in the game you go, like a 5/5 questing on turn 5 is not particularly powerful. You kind of need it more turn 3. Like it needs to kind of exponentially grow as the turns go on the longer you're waiting. And I just felt myself doing other things or having to spend resources that would normally be used to grow the questing earlier. And so I don't know, I just kind of got away from it.
Yeah, it needs to feel unfair. And it's really hard to make it feel unfair that early without going all in and then hoping they don't find something. And then sometimes they just like Fireheart Earth Shock, and you're like, oh, okay.
Or even just like Fireheart Frost Shock, and then the next turn they make a board, and they have enough power to kill your questing.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter like how big you grow at the next turn.
Yeah, the inclusion of Animated Broomstick in some of the evolve lists has been pretty brutal.
That's a good card.
That's a good card.
Remember when we thought that card was bad? Remember how
What?
I don't ever remember saying that.
Yeah, I don't remember
was
saying it was
bad.
bad.
Remember
I
when I thought the
overlooking
card
it.
was bad?
overlooking it? Yeah,
Remember when
Definitely
I thought the card
overlooked
was
it,
bad?
that's for sure.
Yeah.
because like I thought Rocket Og Merchant was good, so I wouldn't have thought Broomstick was bad. I just didn't really. It didn't draw my attention. I didn't
Yeah.
notice it.
Well, we get to figure out how we underestimated it in new and exciting ways every single week on this show.
Yeah.
But yes, turns out that when you transform all of your minions into new, bigger minions, giving them rush after is good. It's good.
So we talked about some of these a bit, but like specifically, what are the new cards that are really making this deck work? Prize Plunderer, I think, is probably the number one.
I think that's the number two. Number one
Number
is
two
Foxy.
is Swindle.
Foxy.
Oh, it's Foxy.
Yeah, Foxy.
Foxy's so
100%.
stupid. Foxy's a dumb card that they need to nerf.
It no longer feels terrible to go first.
Yeah,
It's still
I'd
not as
say that's
ideal
probably
as
it.
having coin, but going first always felt really bad, especially if you were in like the mirror, because you know the amount of broken stuff you could do was severely limited by not having coin, and by essentially giving yourself an out to be able to combo early. But it has a lot of stuff. I think Swindle is also just a huge addition because it gives you that churn to be able to find more stuff to do. It just kind of goes along really well with the deck, whether you're playing prep or not in the deck. It just kind of keeps the deck moving, and you can play it earlier, where unlike Secret Passage, sometimes that kind of messes with what you're trying to do, because Swindle lets you use your cards in hand, whereas Secret Passage means you cannot use your cards in hand, which
Right.
gets awkward, especially with stuff like Questing Adventurers and Edwin's and stuff like that, where you're like, I really want to be able to use this stuff in hand, but I'm going to have to just choose 4 different cards at random.
And I think, honestly, a perfect hand to me will look like Prep, Swindle, Edwin, right? Because, as you said, unlike Secret Passage, you get to use the stuff that's still in your hand, so you can prep the Swindle, still have the Edwin, say the Swindle draws you a Foxy Fraud, and like you're in serious business.
I mean, the perfect hand is Coin, Foxy, Shadow Step, Foxy, Edwin.
Sure.
Never done it.
It's very
I
good.
Have literally never done it.
It's
I want
very
to.
good. Yeah. Shout out to Jeff
think-
for the Twitch Prime sub, by the way. Thank you, Jeff.
I think Foxy is what puts Rogue at the top right now, but it's the Prize Plunderer and Swindle that are why we're willing to run Whirlkick Master. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, it's just the sheer density of undercost effects and mana reduction cards. Shadow Step is an all-star in this deck. Really, really, really,
Oh,
really
yeah.
good. But like you said, I think it was last week, Shadow Stepping Whirlkick Master basically gives you infinite cards in any kind of attrition matchup. But you don't even
Yep.
need to. And to speak to the point about Secret Passage, this deck wants to play Passage very aggressively. I play Passage usually like a tracking, and sometimes it turns into a Solarium. I'll play it with 2 or 3 mana up quite a bit. A mistake that I was making early on, especially last expansion, is I would use all the cards in my hand, then hope to pass it into something good. What I'm doing now is Passage when I have stuff to do next turn, so I can find something good to do this turn when I'm kind of ahead on board, so that a whiff doesn't hurt quite as much. And if I Passage and play 1 card, it's fine. And sometimes you Passage and play 2 or 3 or whatever. But turn 4, Secret Passage, play some stuff when I have like Hook Scimitar, Janus Barov, and something else in hand. totally fine and usually ideal, as opposed to hoping for it to be a Hail Mary later in the game.
Yeah, I think I even linked the game where I hit Legend, and I secret passaged on turn 5 when I had a Jandis in hand, but I had 4 or 5 minions in play against a warrior, so it was just like, well, I don't want to use this resource that's good for refill. I'm going to use secret passage and use kind of these cards that don't really affect my hand, because I think I had 6 cards in hand or something. So I had a ton of cards in hand. I had plenty of stuff I could do, but it made more sense to secret passage and use resources that are just coming out of my deck instead of the ones I have in hand, so I can preserve the ones I have in hand to really go late in the game.
Yeah. And there have been some times, the turn that always stands out to me is I passaged on turn 4, 3 mana up, and went Whirlkick Master, Wand Thief, Shadow Step the Wand Thief. And I ended up with 4 new cards in hand, and a Whirlkick Master and a Wand Thief in play. That I got to keep the 4 new cards. It's just 4 mana to basically draw 7. Felt pretty powerful. And that was enough value to get me where I needed to go. Whirlkick doesn't have to generate more than 2 cards to get the money's worth out of it. But sometimes you're against Warrior and you just turn 8, Whirlkick, stuff, Shadow Step the Whirlkick. Next turn, Whirlkick, more stuff, head crack you. And then you're good. And you will grind out warriors with head crack. It will happen.
Oh yeah, warriors, all kinds of stuff. Head crack can also be great because sometimes you're just running low on stuff, and each of your turns is. I mean, that doesn't happen often, I'll say, but it does occasionally happen against control-y decks, and you're sort of playing your top deck plus head crack or something like that, and. If you top deck a Whirlkick, then you're in business again. It's a hand refill. It's like the combo card that you can keep spending, and then use it to get your Whirlkick going later on.
Yeah, and there aren't a lot of aggro decks around right now, but when aggro Demon Hunter was a thing, there were a few times where I went Whirlkick Prize Plunder to kill something, got another Prize Plunder back, and the game was just over, like just completely over.
Yeah, in the aggro matchups, wherever you get to go, Whirlkick, card, prize plunder, kill your thing, Shadow Step the prize plunder, kill your gigantic thing, and then all of a sudden you have this board that they have to kill the Whirlkick Master, because otherwise you're just going to keep getting more stuff, but also you just kind of destroyed their whole board. It's very power. It has a lot of different use cases.
I was doing a coaching session the other day and got a Prize Plunder for 8 on turn 5, I think. Like 8. Ugh.
I find it difficult to like keep track in my head sometimes of how much damage it's actually going to do.
Only every single time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you also have to keep in mind it doesn't count itself, which a lot of other cards would like count itself. So you have to do some calculations in your head. And often what I do is just count the left bar, just go through and count every one of my spells.
Yeah,
we need a storm counter like in Magic. You just a spin down D20 where you just like turn it up 1 each time you play a card.
Or they could make it like Militia, where it says on the card what it does, where it tells you how many soul fragments.
That would be nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Quality of life there.
Yeah, but Prize Plunder doesn't need to get better.
I would say compared to Secret Rogue, it feels to me like Secret Rogue is much more likely to do a sort of build up turns to something explosive. You know, as we used to think of Miracle Rogue, and this deck does a lot more of just like strictly playing for tempo every single turn. At least in the aggressive version.
Yeah, I think so.
Does that sound right?
I mean, the secrets just don't kind of line up all that well in the current meta. Ambush sucks when they just play a free Mogu and they have a Bog Spine up, and then you get a 2/3 and then they hit it. Dirty tricks like we swindle, make sure we have enough cards. Stunner is at its best in the Rogue Mirror, and part of the reason to play Secret Rogue would be to beat the Rogue Mirror. a little bit, but like the advantage is not that significant, and Whirlkick is so many cards so quickly early on that it's Secret Rogue is good at things that don't matter as much right now. And you know, sticking a Hanar is still really strong if you can do that, but that is a very expensive late game play, and this meta's if you aren't doing something powerful by turn 5, you're going to get evolved out.
Yeah. I think against Shaman is when I'm most likely to just run out a Whirlkick on curve.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them aren't running the Storm Strike, right? So they don't even necessarily have to have an ability to deal with anything short of a lucky lackey pull.
Yeah. And a lot of the times, there was a Conquest match I was playing earlier where it was open decklist. I knew they had the tour guide version. I was going first. I played a Wand Thief on 1 just to have something to contest. It's not something that I'll usually do, but it's having a 1/2 on turn 1 matters a lot if you don't have Aerocat. You can even just run out a Wand Thief.
Yeah, Secret Rogue feels much more like a checkmate deck where you kind of put your opponent in a position where they don't really have outs to what you're trying to do, where it's just like no matter what, if they play a big minion, then you get your 2/3 ambusher, or you just kind of get the game into a position where it doesn't really matter what your opponent does, they're going to die to your stuff. Whereas the more aggressive deck is actually just killing you. It's a lot less. It's weird. It's almost like the aggro deck is more the secret deck because you don't know what cards they generated, whereas the secret deck you kind of know what they generated, but it doesn't matter because you're not going to be able to beat the cards that they played. So the problem is the secret definitely takes a lot more time to set up, and time is not something you have an abundance of in this format because there's a lot of people that kind of have engines going, I guess. There's a lot of engine decks that once the engine gets going, it doesn't really matter what you do as the Secret Rogue, you're not going to be able to stop it.
And Plagiarize is really bad right now. Like it's
Right.
when Plagiarize is good, when the format becomes about generating additional value, Secret Rogue makes more sense because all of the Rogue cards are value except for Ambush and Stunner. And sometimes Ambush lines up well. And Stunner's not bad right now, but it's not enough. And you need Stunner to be the lead into the kill turn. But all the other secret cards are slow and don't kill your opponent. And so it's just... the format is... It's sneaky fast. And by fast, like... Shaman is not a fast deck, but it closes the door quickly enough that you can't wait to the late game to do something good. And Secret Rogue really, if it doesn't get the Edwin or questing draw, you're just kind of waiting until turn 6 or 7 to really get that Hanar thing going, and Stunner by itself is not enough. And you really don't want to Stunner a Horde Pillager. Don't want to do that. It's a bad idea.
That being said, I think Secret Rogue there's still good, and it still is going to match certain people's play style.
Sure. It's still
a little
Rogue.
better. Like
It's still Rogue.
Ray C was right. Yeah, Ray C is doing quite well with the Secret Rogue. Rogue is still very well positioned, but I think for each of us, we prefer this, particularly the aggro version of the Whirlkick Rogue. I'm curious what our differences are going to be here. What are your sort of always keeps for this deck?
Foxy.
Yeah, I think that's
Foxy
pretty
for
much-
sure.
And Ferrocat.
That might be, yeah. No, you're right. Ferrocat and Foxy, I think, are the only guaranteed, and everything else is contextual.
Yeah. I'm playing Spy Mistress in my list, so I'll keep that more often than not. Not 100% of the time, but pretty close.
So I guess you don't have prep then. I have prep.
I am not playing prep. In the version with prep on the coin, I'll usually keep it, but not always. We don't really take advantage of prep early game quite the same way, and I'd rather just have a Foxy. Like, I'd rather have a 0 mana 3/2.
Yeah,
Foxy
I need a reason to keep
Keffius is
prep.
great.
I have kept prep sometimes, but most of the time I lean towards mulliganing it because it's even a pretty decent draw later, or it's one of those cards that's a fine draw later in the game because it can speed up your mid game turns a bit. But I mean, statistics, because I wanted to look this up because I knew it would come up because we're talking about keeping prep in the mulligan. And statistics say that keeping prep in the opening hand is actually pretty decent, but people are keeping it significantly less than half the time, which means that it's a card that you are going to have a specific reason to keep it, and when you have that specific reason, it's good, and if you don't have that specific reason, you probably don't want to be keeping it. So in a hand that, for instance, has a swindle in it, sometimes you might keep prep swindle, and that's okay. It's almost the equivalent of keeping, like, it's a bit better, I think, than keeping a loot hoarder because it can turn on other things you have going, but I think it's you want to keep it a lot more when you're going first and have a combo card you want to enable. But if you don't have that combo card, keeping it's kind of sketchy because you'd, like Hat said, you'd rather just draw a Foxy Fraud or something like that, or have a Pharaoh Cat early, or a backstab. I keep backstab a lot, unless I'm playing against Warrior. I don't keep, because backstabs almost felt, at least when I was playing against like ETC and all the control warriors, it's just a dead card. You literally never get to play it unless you play it on your own minions.
I actually don't keep it all the time against Shaman. If my hand doesn't have anything proactive to do, I will mulligan it to look for something proactive. I'll keep it if I'm like going first, have a 1-drop and a miscreant. But if I'm not going first, I am actually more likely to mulligan against Shaman just to find something proactive to do. Because the only target you have early game is Cage Mapped Custodian, and like the Custodian itself is not a big deal. It's if Backstab is going to be a reliable combo activator that I need, then I'll take it. We don't have a problem taking board against them by turn 3 or 4. The issue is, do you need a combo activator going first? But Backstab has felt pretty underwhelming to me against Shaman.
It was a lot more important when there was the threat of Totem Shaman.
Yeah.
When Totem Shaman was a portion of the meta, then I was always keeping Backstab. But now that it's pretty much all evolved Shamans, it makes a lot less. And they're also cutting a lot of the early game cards. Like, I don't think that what was the 1/3?
Surging Tempest is definitely falling out of
Tempest,
lists.
Yeah, is coming out of lists, and just the early game matters a lot less. They're, like I was kind of trying to say, is Evolved Shaman is very much an engine deck that is trying to get their weapon online and start attacking you every turn and making their board better. And they're focusing a lot more on the ways to keep the engine going instead of securing the early game, because aggro Demon Hunter is not really a thing anymore, and there's not a whole lot of aggro decks out there, so you don't need to worry about the early game as much, so you don't need early game minions to contest.
Yeah.
I would tentatively say I might keep a hand against Shaman specifically that was like Whirlkick Wand Thief Backstab or something.
If you have a Wand Thief, I tend to look for Backstab as a decent activator for it.
Because Whirlkick you can kind of run out on too against the Shaman, and then having something like Backstab to for sure protect it is pretty nice. And you can often get a decent chain rolling as long as you're not getting bloomed.
Yeah, and the early bloom into Knuckles by itself from the Shaman isn't a huge deal for us. It's if they have the follow-up. Like, if they have the early bloom into the Hare Pitmaster into the Horde Pillager, that's problematic. But just the one swing board, we can deal with one swing board. That's not a problem, especially because the modern Miracle Rogue, or the modern combo rogue lists are running Brain Freeze. Whatever they evolve into early game, it's usually not too hard to take out with some combination of Backstab and Brain Freeze and Prize Plunder, and even use your Eviscerates as needed, or just trade into it with stuff. Yeah. And it helps that we play 0 mana 3/2s a lot. Foxy's so busted. Such a crazy card.
Are we still keeping Evil Miscreant on the coin most of the time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I have a Foxy, I'll usually keep it going first.
Yeah, that card is so crucial to so much of what that deck has going on. it does so much for the deck, especially when you're playing like Wriggling Horror and stuff like that. It's just it synergizes so well with everything, no matter what lackeys you get.
We're gonna play Rogues without Evil Miscreant for the first time in 2 years in March. It's been
No, I don't want to.
it's been in like
I
every
love
Rogue
that
deck.
card.
It's been like every Rogue deck since April 2019. It was originally a 1/5 for people that don't know that. And I know that sounds ridiculous. It
So
was.
insane.
It was stupid.
So was Hanar.
So was Hanar. Also stupid.
I wish it was a 1/5 right now. It'd
It
be so much better
yeah,
against
because
Bogspine
Rogue
Knuckles.
needs to be better. That's what we need right now.
I just want it to be better against Bogspine Knuckles.
Yeah.
You know what? Put Bogspine Knuckles as a 3 attack. Problem solved.
There you go. Yeah. It's all just the secret plan to make Evil Miscreant one of the best cards in the format again. Oh, wait, it already is. It already is.
So then, in terms of playing against this deck, what advice do you have?
Don't be an aggro deck. Like, if you're playing Zoo or whatever, you're going to have a hard time sticking a board. It's very difficult to stick a board against this deck. A lot of the times, I think containing it is actually possible if you're like a Libroom Paladin or a Control Warrior. You can grind it out, and the aggro list in particular has a lot of trouble with bigger taunts and life gain as the game goes on. You just have to make sure that you don't die by turn 5. Against the Whirlkick and Questing list, if you gain enough life and if you slow the deck down enough, then you can stabilize in the mid game against it. There's no sap most of the time, but even if there is one, if you are able to weather about 50 damage, then you can get there. So Warrior in particular, I think, is not poorly situated, but you have to be aware that at some point you have to become the proactive deck as the Warrior, because the Rogue is not going to run out of cards if they play correctly.
Yeah, I played against a Control Shaman, and I had stuff to do until I was fatiguing for 6.
Yeah.
So, and it was good stuff to do.
Not kidnappers.
Yeah,
Right.
large minions. Large minions are generally pretty good against the Whirlkick version, or large taunt minions. But against the secret version, that gets sketchy because you just get
Stunnered.
Yeah, you just get stunnered. You can get stunnered out of the game. So kind of a combination, I guess. And honestly, the matchup against Evolved Shaman is not really that good.
It's Shaman
like, Evolved
favorite.
Shaman, yeah, Shaman's actually still favored. Like, this is a good deck, but Shaman still does pretty good against it just because the Rogue can beat the first evolve or 2, but the 3rd and 4th evolve, as long as there's some amount of refill involved with them, gets rough. So
And
you
honestly,
gotta kill them early.
sometimes the second one just has too many taunts, and
Yeah,
what are you gonna do?
Yeah, the reason we've talked about going lower to the ground and playing cards like Wriggling Horror and Defias Ringleader and Hook Scimitar is because being rogue but aggro is the way to gain percentage in that matchup, just to make sure you have the early game pressure and keep them from being able to get that 3rd and 4th evolve. And it's a demonstration of how warped the meta is, that the best thing to do is to really get rid of a lot of the value cards, because this is not a late game meta, and just try and go under the Shaman and kill them before they can get a giant board that you can't deal with while they're hitting you for 4 every single time. Now, Rogue's worst matchup, per the stats, per Vicious Syndicate over the last few days, is Control Warrior. If you cut the Whirlkicks, that's going to get worse, but it's already not a favorable matchup. It really depends on what you see. But Warrior is the one where the extra crazy amount of armor they can gain, especially Skippersmith Bloodsworn, is usually a little bit too much for the Rogue to overcome. Not never. You can beat it sometimes, but it's very challenging, and then they're usually able to set up some kind of way to kill you.
Also, putting bombs in their deck seems to be effective too, because the Rogue does churn through a good amount of cards in their deck, and doesn't have any way to heal themselves unless they find a way to generate it. So as long as you can withstand a bit of the storm of what they're trying to do, couple bombs in their deck, they're going to start digging for answers to finish out the game, and they might die.
So remember, if you're the rogue, if you have a bunch of bombs in your deck, you are safe to Secret Passage. Secret Passage does not draw cards, it replaces your hand. So if there are bombs in your deck and Secret Passage hits them, they do not blow up. They sit in your hand and go back in your deck. So you can passage if you have bombs in your deck.
Although you're still not happy to see cards you were hoping to draw have their spots taken up.
But you're happy to not be dead. So if you need to look for something to do and also not be dead, Secret Passage with bombs in your deck is good at that. And you can actually
Swindle,
cast
not
a bomb.
so much.
Yeah, Swindle not so much. If you want to, Craptaz, I'm pointing out in the chat, if you want to cast a 5-mana bomb, has 5 mana, take 5, draw a card, it's the worst life tap in history, you can do it. You can do it. Probably don't want to that often, but it is an option available to you as the player.
And you get to keep that card when your hand goes back.
Yep.
It's true.
And their Blastmaster Boom gets a little worse.
Yep.
Yeah. But unlikely to come up a lot.
And you mentioned that we kind of are shifting towards, more aggressive lists of rogue. We have here a variant that is the stealth aggro rogue. I saw there was a list that actually had Greyheart Sages again. And
yes.
I think the 2-mana 3/1 stealth.
Yep. Vicious Syndicate posted a list that is running Sage and Sneaky Delinquent over the Wriggling Horrors and the Defias Ringleaders. It doesn't run Prep either. And this list doesn't run Prize Plunderer, but it does add Infiltrator Lillian back in. So it's old school stealth aggro, except with Foxy Fraud and Swindle, because obviously. And it's solid. It's okay. I don't know if this is better or worse than the aggro combo rogue, but you can do it. It's a thing you can do. I played a little bit of it. It seems fine. Greyheart Sage is a good card, but again, drawing cards just not as hard to do right now and not as valuable, because usually the limiting factor on your deck is going to be how much time you have to play those cards where they're relevant.
Although I will say it can be nice to have just a solid play on turn 3 like that.
Yeah.
3/3s aren't impressive, but 3/3 with upside kind of builds towards your later game plan. It can be pretty nice. I think if you played a lot of the stealth rogue before and are looking to get into the Whirlkick Rogue, this could be a nice sort of segue list, because it'll have some of that knowledge from before that you can draw on of doing your Spy Master or Sneaky Delinquent into Greyheart Sage, and then you can get started on, counting for Prize Plunderer and doing your Whirlkick turns.
Yeah. It's just fine. I think I would call it unexciting, but it does the job. And if you have the cards, feel free to use them. I
feel like that's pretty much a wrap, and unless either of you have stuff to add on the rogue.
What would you
Rogue
nerf?
is fun. You should play it.
What would you nerf from this deck if you were nerfing it?
Oh, interesting. I don't want to put Foxy to only reduce by 1, but Foxy does seem insane. It's kind of tough because all of them... It's one of those things where it feels like all of the cards on their own are just solid, but then the way it all comes together is kind of ridiculous.
It's probably something like Whirlkick to 3 mana and Foxy Fraud to a 2/2 or something.
Oh, kick.
I wouldn't nerf Whirlkick.
Like it's about to rotate.
But even then, I don't think that's the reason this deck is good. I think we're playing that card because the payoffs are good. Edwin's gonna get Hall of Famed, but I don't think they're gonna do it early.
You say that. I agree with you, but I don't know. There's the Edwin meme for a reason.
I did design a good replacement card for Edwin. It was like specifically a decision of mine to design a replacement card for Edwin.
I feel I will bet 2 packs that he rotates with the classic rework.
That would be cool.
I'm not taking that bet. I think he's going away.
I don't think they
I
ever
think we
print.
all.
They never print Foxy without Hall of Faming Edwin. Never, ever, ever. There's no way. No way. But I do think that I love the play pattern of Foxy. Zacho on the VS podcast was saying that he wants them to Darkglare Foxy and make it a 1-mana 2/1 that reduces by 1. I don't know if that actually makes it. I think that makes it a better card, honestly. Like, I don't
Yeah,
want.
quite possibly.
I don't want turn 1 that into Wand Thief or whatever. It's. I think that Foxy needs to just reduce, but like the cards need to cost more mana in this deck. More cards need to cost more mana. Should probably be Foxy to -1, and I think there is a reasonable argument for Prize Plunder to 2 mana. I think there's a reasonable argument.
Do they ever just? I guess it's too long to. It depends when that rework is happening, but depending on when it is, maybe they like leave it until rework, and rework hits Shadow Step.
Well, Shadow Step needs to just leave standard, but I'm pretty
Right,
sure.
that's what I mean.
I love that card.
I know.
I know, but like I feel like Shadow Step is one of the big problem cards for sure.
It's a relatively evil card. Like I
Prize
enjoy.
Plunderer could go to 1/1 pretty easily.
I don't know if the body is what matters with these cards.
You two
but
are
yeah,
making Wicked very happy right now.
it's either way.
I think the reason I suggest something like Prize Plunderer to 1/1 is just because I don't want to kill the card, right? And I think increasing the mana there does kill it. There's a lot of stuff where, because it's all on the cheaper end in terms of cost, adjusting cost impacts the viability of the card by such a dramatic amount because it's a huge percentage of the card.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if they might try and make them less efficient in other ways. I don't know.
It's Foxy needs to not be free. They need
but like maybe they make Foxy a 2/2 or something.
Still free. Still a free card. The deck needs to cost more mana somewhere. It shouldn't be correct to Secret Passage with 2 mana up. That should not be a correct thing to do. The deck needs to cost a little bit more mana, even if it's just Foxy to -1 instead of -2. I understand they designed Foxy and Swindle to work together, but it's just too free. With Shadow Step, it saves you mana. Something's not right there. Things need to cost a little bit more. The deck needs to be a little bit less efficient. It's already so good at contesting the board and dealing with aggro, and it just does all this stuff, and it doesn't have to pay for almost any of it. So, I don't know.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I just realized something.
What?
Shadow Step would technically be on my list of things that can reduce cards
Yep.
to
It
0
violates the
mana.
Botticus agenda.
What do you mean?
But it violates the Botticus agenda.
You've even mentioned that before, I thought.
No. Oh, that
It's-
makes me sad.
Ugh. Corruption at the highest level.
Yeah.
Shadow Step reduced by 2, but not less than 1.
Yeah, it should do that. That definitely
Probably,
should
yeah.
be what it does.
It
Then I
would
still get to play a 1-mana Evil Miscreant, so I'm happy.
Yep. It
Except
would
I
be.
won't because Evil Miscreant's gonna go away.
Yeah, things are going to be very different. But that's going to wind down our show. So we have many folks to like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website, Concede.com. You can find our contact info, our show notes, our patron information. You can monetarily support our show at patreon.com/Concede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord, discord.coinconcede.com. Right into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter, CoinConcede, like, share, and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/CoinConcede. If you'd like some swag, head over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. Big thanks to our producers, Number Theory, Itinerant Wizard, Tony Estoshi, K Pug Ugly, and Proby1. Got some Twitch subs. B-Squatch, Karova, Jeff472200, thank you so much. And Based Inc., thank you so much for the 5 subs. You are the best. All right. Who we got? Botticus.
All right, I'm going to coin concede to a new, I guess, streaming service that I've been using called Dropout.tv that has a bunch of live play D&D, has a bunch of campaigns hosted by Brennan Lee Mulligan, which was I don't know if they still are or were College Humor, but I know they were involved with College Humor for a while, and it's very entertaining and has been a good. Now that I caught up everything on Critical Role and watched everything multiple times, I found something else, some other D&D to watch, and it's been really entertaining.
That sounds fun. As for me, I'm going to coin concede to Smiley Chris for being a nice person. Everyone that was kind and supportive and all that, who DM'd me after last week's show. Things are going pretty well for me in terms of brain reprogramming. And Doc McButt, going through some family stuff. Just want to send well wishes over there to him. How about you, Edelweiss?
Yeah, kind of going that with Doc. I want to shout out actually Hadija, who put together a really nice card with people from different discords and organizations for Doc. It was just a really, really nice thing of her to do using her FX skills. It's a digital kind of card.
There.
Bollocks. So I should be better with this stuff.
It's okay. We're here for you.
Stuff.
You can run that back. I'll edit.
Yeah, okay. So thanks to Hadija, because their FX skills are awesome, and they helped us with putting together a card for Doc with people from various organizations. So that was super awesome. Also, they're supporting our show, which is really cool. They're also supporting the Angry Chicken. So supporting the two biggest Hearthstone podcasts. I think that's true.
I'll roll with it. I don't have a way to prove it, but hey, Angry Chicken is awesome.
At least by Patreon.
Yeah, Angry Chicken is awesome, and we're there too.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's going to be our show. So we're hopefully going to be here next Wednesday for a live Q&A, but we'll see what happens. But until then, keep calm, and if you celebrate, have safe and happy holidays. And if you see us on the ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
All right. Thanks so much, everyone. If you're celebrating, happy holidays. If you're not celebrating, enjoy your time off if you have it. If you're working, be safe. And we'll see you around.